I'll try this a new way. I'm gonna show you the tricks that I know. I'm getting tired of talking, and I need more of a show right now. It's time that you made your mind up, 'cause lately all it ever does is change. Feels like we're only talking, going round and around, back around. I will fight like no other every day. I won't stop like the others. I will stay. 'Cause now is the right time, and I'm feeling alright. I'm playing your game like I know I can win right now. You got me up tonight, 'cause loving you is like I'm walking a tightrope so high. I won't be turning around, no, I won't be turning around. It's the right time, you feeling alright. I'm playing your game like I will win tonight. I think I'll do it on my way. I'm gonna show you what I'm going through, get you out of your comfort zone, 'cause I need more of the truth right now. It's time that you made your mind up, 'cause lately all it ever does is change. Feels like we're only talking, going round and around, back around. I will fight like no other every day. I won't stop like the others. I will stay. 'Cause now is the right time, and I'm feeling alright. I'm playing your game like I know I can win right now. You got me up tonight, 'cause loving you is like I'm walking a tightrope so
I always thought words. I'll get that right again. I always thought records were there to be broken. That was a rocky start, wasn't it? Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to what is a historic day in the world of Formula 1 for two reasons. Kimi Räikkönen breaking the record for most races started, and Lewis Hamilton equalling the record of 91 race victories by Michael Schumacher. What a day, and what a good Grand Prix as well. I was a little bit concerned in the early phases of that race. I thought it was just settling down to that usual Formula 1 Grand Prix kind of vibe, you know, the sort of thing I mean. Field spread and all of that, but it really picked up. Really good race. A few very disappointing performances out there, I'm not going to lie. I'll try not to go in too hard on some drivers, but there are some as well who are absolutely exceptional today. So positives and negatives, but we'll start as we always do with a look at the race result. I've got Dan with me today, by the way. Lewis Hamilton, race winner. Race win number 91 as well. I can't get over it. I really can't. It's been I never thought that record would go. I don't think anybody really did ever think that those records by Michael Schumacher would be equalled or beaten, but it's definitely going to go, probably next time out. Max Verstappen in second place, really solid drive for him. Daniel Ricciardo, yes, on the podium, just what I wanted this weekend. I wanted it before the end of the season, but this weekend, perfect for Renault. And of course, with the Red Bull Honda situation, maybe quite timely in those conversations. Sergio Perez in fourth place, thought it was on for a podium today, thought he might nick it. Fifth place for Carlos Sainz. Pierre Gasly, superb today in sixth, in my opinion. Seventh for Charles Leclerc. Quite how he's dragging that Ferrari to points every other weekend, I have no idea. Nico Hülkenberg, official driver of the day, difficult to argue with that, in P8 from 20th on the grid. Wow. Romain Grosjean picked up a couple of points, and imagine Dan is quite happy with that. Antonio Giovinazzi, he's had a stellar weekend, all things considered. 10th place for him. Seb Vettel just missing out on points in 11th place. Kimi Räikkönen in 12th. Kevin Magnussen 13th. Nicholas Latifi 14th. And Daniel Kvyat down in 15th. Your retirements list for the Eifel Grand Prix at the Nurburgring. Lando Norris, Alexander Albon, Esteban Ocon, Valtteri Bottas and George Russell. Let's hop straight in there and say a very good evening to Dan. Do you enjoy that one, mate? It's been a while since I spoke to you, actually. I should say hi. How are you first?
Hi, mate. Good evening. Hope you're well. I am so glad we have come back to the Nurburgring. What a race. What an absolute cracker. Love that one. So thanks for having me, dude.
No worries, mate. I mean, I suppose the first place to start, I know we normally talk about the victory itself, but we've got to start with the record. I mean, 91 wins. I don't know if you really... I think you've said before you didn't really watch Formula 1 during those Schumacher dominant years in the early 2000s, but even when you started watching F1, did you ever think that record would be equalled or beaten or anything by any driver?
Yeah, I started watching in about 2006, so most of those wins and records had really been done and dusted, and it was kind of just a given that no one was supposed to. It was going to be impossible for anyone to reach those records. So to see Hamilton do it, it is really quite astonishing and I suppose shocking, really. I can't quite get over it. And I think Hamilton, even in his post-race interviews that they do straight out of the car, he looked quite teary. And it's not something we usually see with Hamilton. But I think for a lot of us, finally, it's that realization that, goodness me, he's going to do it. And when he gets, or if he gets, I should say, if he gets those 7 world titles, it's going to be another thing where it really quite takes you back, really. So, yeah, really shocking. But you can't blame him for him. You can't fault him. He has just been incredible.
For those who don't follow me on Twitter, who are watching now, I'll just read what I wrote on Twitter because it's kind of the best way I can sum up how I feel about it all. I said I was a Schumacher fanboy growing up big time. He is my F1 hero, but Lewis Hamilton absolutely deserves all the recognition he is and will get for equalling that record of wins. Whether you like him or not, he is one of the all-time greats. Congratulations, Lewis Hamilton. And that's a key there. I've seen a lot of people in the chat before we went live sort of discrediting this and, he's only doing it because of this and he's only doing it because of that and you're only going to win those races because there's so many races on the calendar now. It doesn't matter if fine. Kimi Räikkönen's record means nothing then because there are more races than when Barrichello was racing back in the 90s and sort of 2000. You can't do that. Well, you can if you want, but I just don't agree with it. And you can discredit it all you like. And this isn't British bias. It's just actually it's unbiased. You can quite clearly see it when you look at the records. He is one of the all-time greats and absolutely deserves a recognition. So There you go, and that's coming from a Schumacher fanboy who had to swallow his pride a little bit today. I'll put it that way, but quite an emotional moment as well when Mick Schumacher handed over that helmet. We'll talk about that a little bit later, though. Probably talk about Schumacher and Hamilton towards the end of the stream. We've got the race to talk about first. There's a race reaction after all. Actually, I mean, Bottas was unlucky today, wasn't he, with his power unit issue or whatever the issue was that saw him have to retire. But the truth of the matter is, he'd made a mistake whilst leading, and that allowed Hamilton the chance to get alongside you. Don't let Lewis Hamilton alongside you. You don't let Max Verstappen alongside you. If you do, they're probably going to go through. So Hamilton breezes past him. Bottas's mistake. I think at that point, even because people will say, oh, he only won because Bottas retired. I actually think that he would have won anyway because he'd taken the lead. Then the safety car, timely safety car, did come out and help him out there a little bit, Dan. So do you think he was probably going to win that race, whatever Bottas did? Maybe Bottas second or third?
Yeah, I think so. I think the big thing for Valtteri, like you say, was that mistake, and I think that's the first time. God, I kind of want to say maybe since that Valtteri it's James call where he's comfortably been leading a Grand Prix. It was probably a space he hadn't found himself in, and maybe got a little bit flustered, a little bit caught away with it. I'm not too sure, but up until that mistake, he'd been pretty much faultless this weekend, and quarter of a second over Lewis Hamilton in qualifying. That's ridiculously rare in Formula One. So when he did drop behind, I think he would have had the pace. I think he would have got back in front of Verstappen, but it's a whole different kettle of fish getting in front of your teammate, in front of Lewis Hamilton. Even with that safety car, Hamilton would have been on the preferred strategy because Bottas had come in, hadn't he, once Max had got past. So I think he would have been on the podium and we wouldn't have seen our Danny Rick boy up there. But I think Valtteri will be disappointed either way, that if he had his power unit failure or not, he'll be disappointed with that mistake.
Yeah, that cost him today, didn't it? And I don't know about you, Dan. We've been doing these race reactions all season, and I think it was only about 4 races in when we both kind of agreed the championship was over. There was a little moment. He won in Russia, of course, and then getting pole position yesterday where I thought, hang on a second, have we got a fight on? Is this it? Because I think if Bottas wins today, you could maybe argue that he's got an outside shot at it. But the gap now, very nicely, 69 points between Hamilton and Bottas. So I think, as well as equaling Schumacher's record of wins today, I think he's taken a massive step now to pretty much wrapping up that record equaling 7th world title, which is just, again, absolutely phenomenal. But he was pretty faultless today, Lewis Hamilton, wasn't he? I can't think of anything that he did wrong. I mean, you know, he capitalised on Bottas's mistake. He then got the safety car, which was, again, quite timely, which helped him out there with a quick pit stop. But I think Bottas would have probably had to pit again anyway, and would have ended up behind him eventually. So, sorry, chatter in there now just going noise at the points gap. That just made me, I thought there was something wrong with the mics, and I was like, oh no. So they're enjoying that one in chat. But yeah, just a stellar drive from Lewis Hamilton. I don't think really... I'm going to use that line again, Dan. You kind of run out of things to say about him, don't you, when it comes to winning, because he just seems to do it all the time, which much to people's frustration I'm seeing in chat as well.
Yeah, definitely. The only real threat, I believe, was Max Verstappen at the end. And I think there was a tiny little bit of me thinking, oh, go on, Max, give him a real fight to the end, make him work for this record. But that safety car restart, even though it's such a small part of the Grand Prix, it means so much. He smashed it. Verstappen struggled, got caught up with Ricciardo. And yeah, like you say, you kind of do run out of things to say because he was pretty much faultless today. Though Bottas got a little jump at him at the beginning, that wasn't really a lot. Like you say, capitalised on that mistake of what we saw anyway. No lockups, no little wide moments. Maybe lap 1, turn 1 when the whole field decided to go wide. But yeah, apart from that, another cracking drive.
Yeah, that was good to see, wasn't it? Bottas just willing to keep it in there. We might have seen a year or so, sort of, if you go back a year or so, he might have backed out of that, but he was determined to keep his car in there, wasn't he? And I did wonder if that was going to end up with something a bit more dramatic between the two Mercs, and suddenly you've got Verstappen winning the race from Ricciardo and Perez or something, I don't know, but some great racing between the two Mercedes boys, full stop. And actually, when Bottas had made that mistake on the lockup, they were very close to contact, weren't they, when he came back on the track, and I found myself going, oh no, and I can just imagine what Toto's doing, and he's just having a minor heart attack in the garage at that moment, but that's what we want to see from Bottas, isn't it? Some really good racing from him, and willing to sort of get his elbows out against his teammate. But no doubt, yes, he made that mistake, but he was unlucky with the power unit issue. But again, for about the third time already, I think he still would have lost out to Hamilton today. But more of that, please, Bottas. Even if the championship's wrapped up, in fact, if the championship's wrapped up, double down on that, because we want to see someone take the fight to Hamilton. And on the subject of taking the fight to anybody, we want to see Max Verstappen up there taking the fight to Mercedes as well on Red Bull's behalf. And I agree with you. There was a little moment where Verstappen cut that gap down by quite a bit. And then Hamilton goes out the next lap and pushes for fastest lap. Luckily, though, or unluckily for Lewis, luckily for Max, he managed to smash in an absolute belter on that final lap with a 1:28.1 and take the fastest lap, did Max. So 19 points for him today. Maybe back in the fight now for that. In fact, he definitely is back in the fight for second place.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you just never can count out Max Verstappen, even though we all know that Mercedes is comfortably the car to beat. Max is just consistently right on their heels. If they make a mistake, look at Bottas. He was in the lead. He made that mistake. Not only did Hamilton get past, Max Verstappen right on it. Bottas had to do the stop, and ultimately Max got in that way, but he was right up behind him when he came into the pits with that flat spot. So I think with Max, he will love the challenge of trying to catch up with those two Mercedes. Is it? Well, I'm not quite sure the exact gap. It's about 20 points, is it, to Valtteri in the standings? So that's, you'd like to think, attainable if he continues to put in these stellar performances, keeps on just pipping one of the Mercedes to start on the front row. He's certainly got a team behind him. He just needs that bit of a wingman, I think, and I think that will let him down as the season goes on. But I think there's no denying Max Verstappen's ability in Formula One. With Valtteri, I think we've seen over the last couple of weekends, he's a good enough driver to be at Mercedes. He's a driver capable of winning. I think today, and like you say, with lap one, proved he's hungry to win. He wants to win. So I think he's going to give Max a good challenge. And I hope, like you say, for these final 7 races, I think he's going to push Hamilton all the way.
It's 14 points, the gap, mate. It's closer than you thought it was. So Max is right in there, isn't he?
Nice.
So I think that's the fight we're watching now. I mean, like I say, we've been saying since mid-season, mid-season? Not even mid-season, 4 races in that this was done. So I think 69 points is, I mean, yeah, all right. People say, oh, it only takes a couple of DNFs. And then when he gets 75 points, it only takes 3 DNFs. Is he going to get 2 DNFs between now and the end of the season? He doesn't need to take any risks now. He can take the Alain Prost approach, can't he, and take it easy, whereas Bottas has got to go for it. So I'm hoping that Verstappen and Bottas give us an epic fight and, take a couple of wins away from Lewis between them, sort of between now and the end of the season, and give us that fight for second, because that's something to get a little bit excited about. But ultimately it is, who was it that used to say second is first of the losers? I can't remember who that was, but it's still, it's something, isn't it, to enjoy and look forward to. But I think Verstappen was solid today, and I tell you what, mate, it wasn't as close, but it reminded me of Hungary last year, just that relentless pace that Hamilton and Verstappen were throwing down. I mean, without that safety car, they would have lapped up to and including third place. They were just relentless with that pace, and that is why, in some ways, I'd love to see Verstappen in an equal car to Hamilton, probably in that Mercedes instead of Bottas, because imagine that championship fight. Verstappen's talented. He's quick. He is, I said it to somebody the other day in the comments, he is, in my opinion anyway, the only driver on that grid anywhere near Hamilton's level at the minute. So I think that would be epic, and I think he was brilliant today, Max Verstappen, in a car that isn't as quick as a Mercedes, but curiously enough, Toto Wolff and Lewis Hamilton both saying afterwards that Red Bull's a threat, and they are getting quicker. And when you look at the gains over this weekend, they're definitely getting closer to Mercedes. So, all right, okay, this season might be done and dusted in terms of the championship. It might not give us too much between now and the end of the season in that respect. But with these regulation freezes for next year, with Red Bull closing in now, we might actually get a half-decent season next time in terms of the championship. I'm already looking ahead to 2021. How bad's that? Stop it, Sean.
Well, yeah, even in qualifying yesterday, I generally thought Max was going to have a brilliant chance at pole position. And we haven't had that since Brazil last year, a car other than a Mercedes get anywhere close to pole. So I think that they're slowly building. I think they're slowly getting a car which is getting closer to Mercedes. And like you mentioned, we all know Verstappen is capable of taking the fight to Lewis and Valtteri. So I'm with you. I don't want to say I'm looking forward to 2021 because I want the fight this year to still keep on going. But I think the fight we've got in the midfield is enough this year. And next year, I think, will still be a great fight.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just going to adjust my table in a minute, Dan, because it's wrong on the all-time win. Somebody pointing out in chat. Thank you for the heads up there. Sashin, I think it was, so thank you for that. But yeah, Danny Rick, mate, I'll let you lead the conversation on Ricciardo while I just correct that quick error. But were you beaming from ear to ear? I was so pleased to see him up there today, and a great drive as well.
This has got to be one of the most popular podiums for a long time. He's been through it all as Danny Rick, not even just at Renault, but also that final stage at Red Bull, that season where he seemed to break down at every single event. This has been a long time coming. Last year at Renault didn't go to plan. I mean, he decided to leave the team before this season had even started. So to have the consistency that he's had this year and to not get that result, I think that's a huge sigh of relief for him, for the team, even for Cyril with that tattoo. I mean, I'm just grateful we never have to hear Sky mention that
tell
again.
me about it.
Yeah. That is big thumbs up from me. And I'm sure Ocon isn't too pleased, but for Daniel, what a result for him. I was disappointed to not see the shoey. You know, I will say that. But a great drive today and thoroughly deserves it, not just from today's race, but all season long. He's been brilliant.
By the way, on that table, I've still got Schumacher top. I'm giving him top by virtue of having got that record first, which is how it works when people match things in F1. It's nothing to do with fanboyism, I promise you. But sure. I'm just genuinely chuffed to see Daniel Ricciardo having such a good season, full stop. And somebody actually put a poll to us actually on Twitter, Dan, asking if that, is it that the Renault is better than the McLaren, or is it that actually it's Daniel Ricciardo's talent that is sort of keeping them in that fight for third? And I think it's a mix of both. I think that Renault at some tracks is better than the McLaren, but I think it's just so close in that little midfield battle, if you like, that it could go 1 week. I said it so many times. 1 weekend it's Racing Point, the next weekend it's Renault, another weekend it's McLaren. Sometimes Ferrari are in that mix as well. So I think Daniel Ricciardo's talent has got a big say in that, because he's a quick guy. He'll take risks, and I kind of wish he'd stayed at Red Bull, because I think having him up there alongside Max Verstappen in a Red Bull, we would see some very different results this year, because Red Bull would have strategy options on their side. We'll talk about Albon later, because it's just a shocker from him today. Yes, he retired with an issue allegedly, but not a great result for him. But I wanted him to get this podium at some point in this season, because it didn't work out for him at Renault last year. A lot of people questioned why he'd taken the decision to leave. So to get a podium between sort of now and the end of the year would seem go out on a high. He's also, as he said in his post-race interviews, now that he's got that podium, he's met the goal, which was that they get podiums in their second season. And that's not plural. One podium is not podiums, but that's what they're targeting. Who's to say they can't get more between now and the end of the year? But I'm so happy for him. Do we think get a shoey, though? Where was the shoey? Is that just for wins?
I thought he'd do one. I don't know.
I thought he'd do one. Like get out.
I'm disappointed. I thought we might get a little shoey, and for Hamilton's record as well. I thought he might make Lewis do one. We're gonna have to wait, I suppose. But yeah, like you, it would be great to see him in a Red Bull, and I think this year he is proving to be one of the stars in that midfield. I mean, look at Esteban Ocon. Almost neck and neck, the two of them, in qualifying yesterday. But that little bit of star quality from Ricciardo in the race gets him in front of Perez and Albon, wasn't it? It was Albon at the start, gets in front of him, makes an awesome little fight, ding-dong battle with Leclerc, gets in front of that midfield fight, and he's on his jolly way. He's securing that podium before a fight's even begun for the actual place. So I think, yeah, that star quality for Ricciardo has been mega this year. The car is getting better. Like you say, week in, week out, it seems to be changing which team's at the front of that midfield. Even Ferrari. I know it sounds crazy to say, but they were looking all right at some stages of this weekend. So, yeah, I think Daniel Ricciardo has settled into the team now. He's starting to get his whereabouts. The team, even though he's leaving, I think the team do believe in him. They know he's their star man, and those results are really starting to flow now.
Sean in chat, great name, by the way, says maybe no shoe because of the pandemic. Fair point. It probably is something to do with that, but quite frankly, it was disgusting, pandemic or not. God knows what you're catching when they've been on your feet all race and you're drinking that. But yeah, all jokes aside, it could be down to the pandemic. But I still expected him to do something. But it was just so nice to see him up there with Verstappen as well. And maybe justifying a little bit the move to Renault. Does one podium do that quickly, Dan?
Well, I suppose the car he's left has only got one podium in that time, so maybe.
That is an excellent point. I kind of want to say damn throwing the shade there, but I don't really know. People asking for Albon. We'll talk about Albon shortly because he retired. So we'll go through the top 10 and then we'll probably wander off in all sorts of directions, which we're kind of doing anyway. Sergio Perez, 4th place. I predicted him for a podium today. I'm pretty happy with 4th for Checo. Good race. Expected him to push Ricciardo a little bit harder at the end there, but I must say he was kind of not screwed over by the safety car, but I think that safety car cost him a more realistic shot at that podium because he had the fresher tyres on before that, didn't he? And Ricciardo was going to have to take his tyres quite a long way. I think he had, at one point, Crofty said that there was still 19 laps for him to do while Perez was starting to close in by 3, 4, 5 tenths of a second a lap, and it was projected that he'd sort of catch him with 11 laps to go. So I think had that safety car not come out, I think Perez probably would have made the podium today. Not taking anything away from Ricciardo, you've got to react to the look and things like that, they fall your way, but I think Perez, I think just showing why he is rated so highly by teams in that midfield, obviously not quite so highly by Alfa Romeo coming in next year. Alfa Romeo, what are they called? The other one, Aston Martin, for God's sake, stop naming teams with an A. Yeah, I think Perez did a really great job again today and just did what Perez does. I know I keep saying it's a cliche, but he goes out there. If you give him the car, you give him the strategy, he will deliver you the results. And it actually moves Racing Point into 3rd in the Constructors as well. So not that there's 6 points between 3rd and 5th. Oh, it's so good in that midfield. If Red Bull and Mercedes want to take the rest of the year off, by the way, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, you summed it up perfectly. Checo being Checo, so consistent, so smooth as well. He never seems to make any mistakes, though he had that fight with Charles Leclerc, which gave us a bit of an entertainment spectacle for a few laps. Had a fight with Daniel Ricciardo early on, I want to say, when Ricciardo was trying to overtake Leclerc. That was all happy days. Didn't quite come to him at the end. You are right, and maybe if that safety car wasn't there, I think the gap would have been a little too much, but I suppose we never would have known how much Ricciardo's tyres were going to drop off the cliff. And I don't know about you, but I wasn't sure if Renault were going to pit Ricciardo. I think that generally would have been on their mind. Strap a set of softs on, try and overtake Sainz and try and claw back that podium. Luckily, like you say, for Ricciardo, that safety car really helped him out. And on the restart, wasn't quite as close as he probably could have been. And for Sergio, considering how qualifying had gone, I thought he maybe would have get a little bit closer to Daniel Ricciardo at the end. But yeah, even without that podium, and I can't believe, by the way, Perez has not got a podium this year, considering how many midfield podiums we've had, but still so consistent. 5th in the drivers' standings now, despite missing those 2 races. Makes you really question why Aston Martin don't want him, and he's got to be on the grid next year.
I think it's the way F1 goes sometimes. I'm not going to be naive about this, but when Hülkenberg lost his seat, it was, you kind of like, really? But if Perez lost his and wasn't on the grid next year, you'd be like, what? Are you no offense, Dan, but if Grosjean, for example, keeps his seat and Sergio Perez does not get a seat next year, I'm going bananas in a video and on a stream. I'll have you on. I'm just going to shout at you as the commander-in-chief of the Grosjean army to get that sorted, because that would be unacceptable. I'm not going to have too much of a go at Grosjean today, of course. We'll get on to him in a second. But yeah, I think Perez was solid today. And it's a good point actually on the tyres, because with Ricciardo's stop, when we were watching the race, or when I was watching the race, I think there was a moment where I think a stop was 23 seconds and he was, I think, about 11 seconds behind Ricciardo. And I thought, if Ricciardo pits now for a nice fresh set of softs, he's only 12 seconds behind. He could easily turn that around on a faster tyre, and with his aggressive overtaking, he could still have ended up on a podium. So I'm kind of like you. I thought Renault might just pull the trigger, but then again, I thought Red Bull might have pulled the trigger with Verstappen and just given Mercedes something to think about. But I think Hamilton had enough for lead for Mercedes to cover that, so maybe not. But I'm with you. I think I expected the stop, but no. I mean, look, he can't be disappointed with 4th, can he? It's 12 points on the board. Like you say, he missed 2 races to COVID, jumps up to 5th in the Drivers' Championship, and I think that's... So who said it in chat a minute ago? Somebody said it in chat. Perez just doing a Perez. That's exactly what it was. So spot on. Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz is my driver today, where I'm going to sit here and say I'm not quite sure how he ended up fifth, because I think we saw a lot of him in the midfield fighting, but again, I don't think he was focused on much. I know Norris retiring as he was struggling, he let him through, which sort of allowed him to push a bit more, but he was... And I don't mean this to discredit his drive, but he was just sort of plodding along quite nicely, wasn't he? And getting on with it and delivering what he needed to. Strategy worked out nicely, and P5, I mean... Yeah, what more could I say? He's another one like Perez, isn't he? Where Perez's sights are just that kind of drive where you go, yeah, they did what we kind of expect them to do.
Yeah, it was a quiet day for Sainz. Caught behind his teammate until Lando had those issues. And I believe Sainz did have the upgraded package this weekend, but because we lost the running on Friday, they had very limited time to work out if it was any better, what setup to have on it. So I think he was struggling with that side of things. But I don't think we really saw him once, even on the TV. It's classic 2019 Carlos Sainz, I guess. We saw him overtake Norris when Norris let him through, but I think that was it. And actually, in the standings, that's a good heap of points for him this year. He's been not inconsistent, I'd say unlucky with a lot of the incidents this year. I mean, Mugello, when he got caught up in that big safety car restart, is just one of them. So he needed those points. But yeah, quiet day for Sainz.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. I wait for the press releases to come through and see if they come on strip. I do wonder if maybe after Norris's problems, perhaps the team just sort of told him to... I know he can't turn things down in engine modes and that, but he can look after the car in other ways and just make sure they got home, because obviously in how tight that fight is for third in the constructors, they need every point, so they don't want him pushing too hard and risking the car. So just a thought there. I don't think there's anything more to say. I don't think there's any issue. I just think he had a good race, and I feel like I'm really discrediting him, but I'm not, and I'm not trying to. But we'll move on, because I'll end up waffling and make something up that isn't true, like he actually had an issue with his left toe or something. His one left toe. Pierre Gasly in sixth place. I think he was mega today, Dan. Some of his overtaking was superb. Super aggressive stuff. I'd argue, again, I don't want to talk about Albon just yet, but I'd argue with his performances at the moment, staking a claim. If Red Bull do decide to make a switch, I think commentary mentioned maybe Hülkenberg is staking a claim. We'll talk about him in a second, but I think Gasly absolutely will be back in the frame for that seat if they do make a change. I'm not saying they will. 8/10 behind Sainz in the end, so maybe, what was his last lap? 130.4 versus 130.6, so maybe another couple of laps, he might have got Sainz as well, but it was just great to see. It's just lovely this season to see Gasly being able to go out there and fight and shut people like me up who said that he couldn't race wheel to wheel, because he absolutely bloody is. And I'm trying to think, his battle with Leclerc was fantastic. I loved that.
He is doing so well this season, even before Monza, and even if you take Monza out of the equation, he has been one of the drivers of the season. Really, like you say, putting those doubters to bed, really. Everything he does seems to pay off. Every single move, every single overtake. He's finally found that bit of mojo that he seemed to be lacking at Red Bull. We were all kind of shouting at him, saying, just make an overtake, try something. And I don't know whether he's a little bit scared. Maybe the pressure caught up with him, but certainly that's not letting him get into his head now. He is smashing it this season. And I think today's race started off a little bit slow, was in that fight with his teammate and Alex Albon. But once that was out of the way, especially at the end of the Grand Prix, some awesome battles, some awesome overtakes. And I kind of, a little bit like Hamilton actually this season, I just run out of things to say about Pierre Gasly, because every weekend he's on it. And another example today of him deserving a chance elsewhere.
Yeah, but I don't want to get into this. I don't want him to go to Red Bull. I'd much rather he stayed out. He's happy at AlphaTauri. The car suits him. He's performing. Sixth today, sixth place in an AlphaTauri is a mega result. Sixth place in a Red Bull is terrible. I'd much rather, because I don't think if you put him in that car that Albon's in now, he's necessarily going to do a hell of a lot better. If Albon finishes 8th, Gasly might finish 7th. I don't think that's going to make much of a difference, because the car is built around one man, and that's Max Verstappen. So I don't think putting him in that car is the way to go. for the future. And I kind of think I'd rather Gasly stayed at AlphaTauri and then had a look for 21 and see if seats open up elsewhere outside of the Red Bull program, because I just, that's just how I feel about Gasly. He's doing a great job, and I understand that people think that maybe he should be given a second chance, but I don't want him there. I think he'll go there and it'll just, all this work he's done to turn around his reputation, if you like, and reboot his career would just be undone in one move. I mean, I might be wrong. He might get in that Red Bull and suddenly be within a tenth of Max Verstappen. He wouldn't, but you never know, do you? But yeah, that's just how I feel about Gasly. And like I said, I'll talk about Albon in a minute, and we can talk about his seat then. But Charles Leclerc, how's he getting points in that Ferrari, Dan? He's doing. I think he's actually. It does get talked about a lot, but I think it also gets glossed over a little bit, just how good a job he's doing in that car, because that Ferrari is not great. Yes, they've got some updates this weekend. Yes, the car is better than it has been at previous points of this season, definitely, but he's still doing a mega job. Was he fourth in qualifying yesterday? What a lap in a car that is sixth fastest at best, and actually more under threat from AlphaTauri than anywhere near challenging those ahead of them. So I think he's doing a mega job. I really, really do. And people talk about how drivers, talented drivers have got to show, or people feel that talented drivers have got to show that they can do it in a weak car. He's definitely showing he can do it in a weak car. So I think this season is not going to be as good as last year in terms of his results, of course, because he's not winning races, he's not getting pole positions, he's not picking up regular podiums. But I think this year, actually, for me, in some ways, in his performances and what he's doing with that car, is better than last year. If you get what I'm saying. I'm not saying it is statistically, but just the way he's driving, because he's having to wring the neck of it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm on board with that. I mean, all the silly little mistakes he was making, especially at the start of last year, Baku qualifying springs to mind. We have not seen that whatsoever this season. And whereas last year he was neck and neck, I would say, with Seb, even at the end of the season, the points difference wasn't a million miles away. This year, he's on a whole nother level. And I know Seb's got his own issues and his own story this year, but Charles has been untouchable. And like you mentioned, sixth best car yesterday, completely dragged that to a result. It should never have been anywhere near. And yeah, today he went backwards, but he still gave it a great go. He still pushed that car to its limits, and he still finished so far in front of Sebastian Vettel, who continues to fight with the Alfa Romeo cars. So the fact that Charles is still within contention in that bubble for a podium and still in the fight for the top four in the standings, I mean, how's he doing that? He's been another one that's been so good this year. And yeah, I do think, like you say, results definitely nowhere near the level of last season, but his performances, I think, have been just as good, if not better.
Yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, the Vettel thing, he had a rough day today, P11, but I'm not sure on a conspiracy theory if he's got a weaker car, blah, blah, blah. I just don't think the car suits Vettel, and the team are going to be right behind Leclerc because Vettel's leaving, so... But I still think he's wringing the neck of that car, delivering some stunning performances, and deserves all that credit. I think he really does. I know it's only P7. You said there he dropped back, but all right, there were some retirements. That is only 3 places, to be fair, from qualifying in 4th. So he kept it clean. I've got to say, his defensive driving as well today was seriously good. He was so aggressive in the defence, but he was absolutely fine within all the rules and all of that business. But just great to see him being scrappy and saying, no, do you know what? I am so bored of being overtaken in this car at the moment. You're not coming through. If you want to come through, risk it. And yeah, was it a fight with Perez? I think Perez had got up the inside or around the outside of a chicane or something, and then... No, Perez had gone for a move at the final chicane and Leclerc had just kept it, and Perez then passed him before the final corner. Leclerc got DRS, back past him again in turn 1. That's what we want to see from Charles. He's not had much of an opportunity to do that this year, so really pleased to see him do that. Also really pleased, as I know you are in chat, I don't know what you want to do to celebrate this moment, Nico Ruddy Hulkenberg, official driver of the day. I find it very hard to argue with that, Dan, because P20 to 8th place... He was not in that car. He didn't know he was in that car 100%. It was announced 50 minutes before the start of qualifying yesterday. He's done no high fuel running in that car around the Nurburgring. 4 laps in qualifying. he gets himself up to 8th place. I know there are retirements, but that is still a mega drive from Nico Hülkenberg. And he's another driver that you look at and go, do you know what? If any team is looking for a driver who will deliver results for you in that midfield consistently, who will be quick and will be aggressive when he needs to be, that is your man. What a drive.
He's another one which I can't quite believe that performance has happened today. I don't want to say where's that come from, because I don't think he didn't even expect to be racing. So for him to get that phone call, probably expecting, to go have his Sunday lunch, something, watch the Grand Prix, yet alone to be racing in his home Grand Prix was probably a bit of a shock. To then pull out a result like that, so special. You mentioned there. He's one that I feel should be in Formula One. Today proved not only is he consistent, he's got pace, he can overtake. He is a driver that's capable of pushing that car a little bit over the limit if needs be. And actually, I think Stroll's done a really solid job this season. But if you looked at this on paper and just the result at the end of the race and saw Hülkenberg there without knowing what happened in qualifying, you just assume that's a normal day for Racing Point. So to work his way through the field like he did, retirements or not, really, really good drive. And he only had Q1 as well, going into a Grand Prix, only having done 10, 15 so minutes worth of running. Ridiculous.
And Jack and Nuke in chat just pointing out as well that he didn't have any time to set the car up, so he was running what we'd call on F1 2020 a default strategy, a default setup. So I just think a mega drive from him, and he was racy as well. I'm sure he overtook Sebastian Vettel at one point. In fact, there's probably even a picture on the stream somewhere of it. I'm sure he did, and I think he drove. I can't keep saying it, and I'm not just bigging him up because it's Nico Hülkenberg and it's a great story. He legitimately drove brilliant today. Could go from the back of the grid to 8th place. And I think it might be Sky or Lights Out, I can't remember now, made this stat or pointed out this stat that Nico Hülkenberg has had technically 2 starts, officially 3, even though he didn't actually start the race, first race at Silverstone, but he's had 3 races this year, actually started 2, and he's had as many top 8 finishes as Sebastian Vettel. Ouch. That's how bad that Ferrari is. So that's quite a stat, isn't it? I think he's 15th in the standings, 10 points. So, I mean, that's absolutely worthy of driver of the day, as far as I'm concerned. We should actually just very quickly talk about Lance Stroll as well. There was some concern over why he was feeling unwell. Apparently, he's had a COVID test and he has come back negative. If you're having your tea or about to have your dinner or whatever you call it, wherever you are, apologies with this one if you're eating, but apparently, essentially, he couldn't get off the toilet, was why he wasn't able to take part. Oh, it's an image I didn't need. It's why he couldn't take part this weekend. So it sounds like he's got a bit of a stomach bug. I think flu-like symptoms as well. I'm not a doctor, but you could put those together and come up with stomach bug quite easily. So obviously wish Lance all the best. Hopefully, I'm pretty sure he will be back for Portimao, but all the best to Lance. Hope he gets well soon, because these mechanical issues, and then of course the illness this weekend, kind of really putting a downer on what's been a very, very good season from Lance Stroll, a driver who is out there answering his critics. Yeah,
he's someone who, like you say, has been consistent this year, which isn't usually a word we associate with Lance, but he's finally got over those issues in qualifying. Most people just forget that was even a thing. So much closer to Checo this year in qualifying and in the race. But since Monza, bless him, he's had so much terrible luck, hasn't scored a point, has retired in Tuscany right at the end of the Grand Prix and got caught up in lap 1 last time. So all that momentum slowly getting away from him a little bit, but his future's in safe hands. We all know that, and that's probably an understatement, but this year certainly his best year in Formula One.
Sorry, the chat. First of all, some of you are disgusting and you make me sick. Secondly, Space said couldn't get off the toilet. The old super glue on the toilet seat prank, was it? I've just got this image of Nico Hülkenberg in Lance Stroll's motorhome super gluing the seat. I will drive this weekend. Thank you for that, Space. That's genuinely made me chuckle. Thank you for that. Stupid things. While I'm chuckling, Dan, Your man got a couple of points. I bet you're well happy with P9 for Romain Grosjean. Really good drive when you consider he thought he'd broken his finger at one point.
Honestly, I'm lost for words. I'm lost
It's
for
like a
words,
win.
mate. If I'm being fully honest, most of that Grand Prix, after the final safety car, I didn't care who was on the podium. My eyes were glued to the gap between Grosjean and Giovinazzi. No one else in the world even cared. Even Crofty, no one was interested, but that's all I was focused on. And that's a huge result for the team, yes, but for Grosjean, who's not scored a point since Germany last year. And even Germany last year, I think we can all agree, was a bit of a carnage Grand Prix, and anyone could have got points on that day. So to go on a completely different strategy today, mediums to hards, I was seriously questioning them not bringing him in at the safety car restart. Started to go back initially, lost a couple of places, but then got in that groove, scoring points. I can't quite believe it, to be totally honest with you. Moves ahead of Magnussen in the standings as well. Big result for him. I don't know how many more races he's going to get, but certainly that was one of his better drives today. Really good from Grosjean. And like you say, with a broken finger as well. It just all seems to happen for Roman.
Yeah, if you weren't watching the race, bless him, he came over the radio. Kimi Räikkönen had kicked up some gravel and it had hit his finger. Hell of a shot from Kimi, I must say. Hit his finger, very accurate, and Roman thought he'd broken it. And with the cold temperatures, it made the pain even worse. So driving through that pain barrier, ending up P9. Great drive. And, 6.4 off Hülkenberg. I think he fought well to fend him off. A second clear of Giovinazzi in the end. I think Roman can be very, very happy with that. And like you say, Dan, might not be many races left for him in Formula One. But, I said it yesterday in the qualifying. I still think he's quick. I still think Romain Grosjean has got some very good speed in him. And he could do a job somewhere. He's in the worst car on the grid, in my opinion. I think the Haas is by far the worst car, even worse than the Williams overall, because of that power unit. Among other things, of course, but the power unit not helping the situation. It's not a great car either. I think he can be very proud of ninth place. He's beaten Giovinazzi, Vettel, Raikkonen, Magnussen, Latifi and Kvyat, as well as those that have retired. So I think that's a really good result for Roman. And I am genuine. I know I give you a lot of stick about him, Dan, but I am genuinely pleased to see him in the points. Also Giovinazzi as well. I think he's had a very good weekend. Q2 yesterday. So that's a mega job for him. I think he out-qualified Magnussen as well to end up 14th. So I think Giovinazzi, both of those drivers, talk about Grosjean being dropped by Haas again at the end of the year. I think we have this conversation every year, don't we, Dan, about Grosjean possibly being dropped by Haas, and yet here he is. So he's got some photos of Gunther Steiner somewhere. He's definitely got some photos somewhere. And Giovinazzi, a driver coming to this weekend under pressure. Kimi Räikkönen, allegedly, he denies it, looking to stay on next year. He's saying nothing's been done. Mick Schumacher, all the talk about him, obviously not getting out an FP1, but talk that he's going to get the seat for next year. So massively important weekend for Giovinazzi. Had to deliver under pressure. Again, through to Q2 in what isn't a particularly good Alpha and finishing the points today. You can't do much more than that, can he?
Yeah, I'd put him up there as one of the drivers of the weekend. So good yesterday and comfortably in front of his teammate and Sebastian Vettel today. And though I'm so happy Grosjean got points, I'm kind of disappointed for Gio because I feel he deserved them a little bit more. I just wonder whether all of the commotion around Schumacher replacing him for practice that never went ahead, about Eilert, even Schwartzman, I wonder if that is spurred him on a little bit this weekend, because we've not seen this probably since the first couple of races of the season. He's been much better this year than he was last year, but by far, I think this weekend, his best weekend in Formula One. And if he can build on that, if he can start to make some headaches for Ferrari Junior Academy and also Alfa Romeo, that's exactly what he needs to be doing. He's a driver who I don't think's... Whereas Perez and Hülkenberg, we've all seen what they can do in Formula One, Giovinazzi's still got to prove there's a little bit more potential in him. He's done that today, but he's still got to do it for the next couple of weekends, because at the moment, like you say, nothing official just yet. It looks like it's going to be Kimi and Mick.
I'd be surprised if it isn't. It kind of is a perfect lineup, really, I think, for Alpha. But I agree. I think Gio, he might get beaten to driver of the weekend by a certain German called Hülkenberg in some people's eyes, and maybe by Ricciardo as well. But I think he deserves a nod. I think it was a good weekend and kind of a the best time to do it as well. I don't think he'll be on the grid next year. I can't imagine. I'm with you. I think it will be Raikkonen and Schumacher, but I think as well, if you're Haas and you look at the options available, and you're, let's say for argument's sake, Red Bull as well, and you're looking at the options available, are you really looking at Giovinazzi over the likes of Perez and others? I can't see it. So lovely guy. I've got to say, he's done far better in Formula One than I thought he was going to do. I really wrote him off, if you remember, Dan, when he first got that seat. I really didn't speak very highly of him, but I think he's done a really good job, all things considered. Really took it to Raikkonen end of last season as well. So great weekend for Gio, as far as it can be in an Alfa Romeo at the moment. So yeah, we'll run through 11th to 14th as well. Then we'll talk about Kvyat, because that'll naturally lead into Alex Albon as well. Sebastian Vettel and Kimi Raikkonen, 11th and 12th today. Is it just me, or do they just basically go out and race each other every weekend now? Because I just feel like we only ever see Vettel and Raikkonen together on track at the moment. It's just how it feels at the minute.
I think you bang on. I mean, every single time, they're at least one or two cars behind each other. It's disappointing for Seb, but for Kimi, I think it proves he's still got it.
It was nice and racy today with Seb as well, wasn't he? I'm trying to think who was up against banging wheels with at one point. It was Kevin Magnussen. That's a brave move. That was good to watch. Seeing kind of a bit like Charles Leclerc, in that, getting his elbows out and fighting the battles when the opportunities come, because he might not get another opportunity for the rest of the race. So I quite enjoyed watching him do that. I don't think Magnussen was happy. Sorry, I was just having a drink there. The big talking point, of course, with Kimi Raikkonen. Sorry, I just have a drink. Got a tickly cough. It's not that, don't worry. Kimi Raikkonen, big talking point with him was the contact with George Russell early on in the race, which resulted in a 10-second time penalty. I say contact, it was more like a massive smash in the side of him. Kimi Raikkonen going for a move. Kind of went up the inside, didn't he? Locked up all out of control into George Russell. Lucky not to flip the Williams, actually, to be fair. So, broke George Russell's suspension. That was the end of his race. I'll ask it. I know the answer, Dan, or I think I know the answer. He might surprise me. Do you think that penalty for Kimi was completely justified, the 10-second time penalty?
I do, yes. Poor George Russell, probably quite excited to be racing two world champions. Probably didn't expect to be flipped almost upside down and out of the Grand Prix. 10 seconds. Probably not what Kimi wanted for his incredible weekend he was so looking forward to, breaking all the records. But apart from that, I actually think Kimi had quite a good race. And that overtake on Kevin Magnussen down at the hairpin, he still got it as Kimi. That was ridiculous.
Crystal Racing making a very interesting point in chat, said Seb and Kimi were fighting for the win at the Nurburgring back in 2013. Ouch.
Oh.
How times change. Your man, of course, on the podium back in 2013, just to give you that one again, Dan.
Was indeed. Thanks for that.
That's all right. Keep you smiling. You've got to be happy with that one. But yeah, I think penalty. Some people might say racing incident, but I think he's out of, whether the lockup is because of cold tyres or not, he's still, in the eyes of the regulations, in quotes, out of control or not in control of the car at that point. So I think, and George Russell gave him plenty of room, staying out of the way, 100%, in my opinion, his fault on that one. But it wasn't, I don't think it was deliberate. I'm not saying it's deliberate. He's locked up, he's made the mistake, and that's that. He's just tried to correct it, hasn't he? And then kind of slid into him. So, yeah, but he's ended somebody's race, and George Russell's minding his own business. So, yeah, Kevin Magnussen kind of talked about him with Seb Vettel. Didn't see a lot with K-Mag, unless, apart from that Vettel thing, Dan, unless I've completely missed something on Magnussen. I don't really remember seeing an awful... I think he went straight on at the chicane at one point, I think. The final chicane, but that was about it.
Yeah. He had a good start, actually. In all fairness to K-Mag, he was in front of Grosjean, and Grosjean's strategy really came into play later on. But yeah, I think when he cut that chicane, ended up behind Giovinazzi then, I believe, and then right at the end of the straight had that ding-dong with Seb. So mixed bag for K-Mag, but considering at the start of the year he couldn't get to the flag at most of these Grand Prix, I think he'll take a P12.
Yeah, P13. It's worse than you thought, mate.
Hey, Grosjean scored points, man. That's all I was focused on.
Actually, just on Grosjean and Haas super quickly, that 2 points for Grosjean, if that could be enough to see him finish ahead of Magnussen this year, because that car is not scoring points consistently, is it? So that 2 points today could be enough to keep him ahead of Magnussen come the end of the season. Although the way this year's gone at some races, anything could happen in terms of accidents. You've got Portimao, we've never been to before. That's going to be fun. Imola for the first time since forever. That's going to be fun. Turkey as well, where I think Hamilton could wrap up the title at Turkey, by the way. Yeah, anything could happen. So I think a good opportunity here for Ro-Gro to hang on to whatever position he ends up in. I don't know what he is actually in the championship. It's not spectacular, but it's a couple of points on the board. It's 2 more than the Williams boys and 1 more than his teammate. So there you go. Nicholas Latifi 14th. Yeah, he was there. Have I had the Williams press release? I have. When I used to do the debriefs on a Monday, I had to rely all the time on Williams's or the Williams press release because I can never remember anything that happened because they were just always at the back. I haven't had it yet, so I can't tell you. But 14th is what it is in a Williams, isn't it? It's it's still second to last, but it's not last. Oh, that's awful. I've just done Nicholas Latifi dirty there, haven't I?
That car wasn't great this weekend. No. Like you, we didn't see a lot of him on TV. There wasn't really a lot of excitement in terms of getting close to the points. So he's consistent, is Nicholas. He's closer to Russell, I think, this year than Robert was last year. But nothing too special or standouty, I guess, from Latifi.
No, I still think he's done all right this season, to be fair. I don't think he's been terrible at all. There we go. Nicholas Latifi said, it was a challenging race today and I was pushing as hard as I could. I can't pinpoint is a word you're looking for there, Sean. Why exactly? We were just lacking overall pace, especially compared to the Haas and the Alfa. We were put in a good position after the safety car, but we had faster cars on new qualifying tyres behind us. So it looks like he got caught out by drivers on quicker cars, but the car just wasn't very good. Wasn't very good at all. So there you go. That's Latifi. Daniel Kvyat was actually going quite well. Finished 15th in the end, but his front wing was knocked off by Alexander Albon after they'd been battling for a little bit. So I'm kind of gutted for Kvyat because I think he would have been, with all due respect to Grosjean and Giovinazzi, he probably would have been in one of those positions come the end of the race. He would have been in the points because he was kind of not a million miles away from his teammate, as I recall. So kind of gutted for him, but it's racing. These things happen, but kind of the timing of the contact as well was so wrong for Kvyat because it was in that final sort of part of the lap, wasn't it? He couldn't come in the pit, so he had to do a full lap with no front wing.
Yeah, that couldn't have gone much worse for him, bless him. Made that mistake cutting over the chicane. Probably thought, oh, I'll let Alex through. I don't want to fight it too hard. So to come away without a front wing, he was probably a little bit more disappointed than he would have expected. And yeah, where the contact happened, couldn't have been in the worst position. So not the best race from that standpoint, but at the same time, I kind of expected him to move forward on the safety car restart. I'm a bit surprised he didn't, considering how much that Williams was struggling, the Alfa Romeos and the Haas's. I feel the AlphaTauri is quite comfortably better than those cars, but I don't know how much damage was on the car because that front wing quite violently went underneath the car. So maybe there was a bit of floor damage there. But he's been on a good point streak at the moment, so big disappointment for Danny.
Yeah, he made a mistake that led to the contact, didn't he? Cutting that chicane in the fight with Albon, but Albon just didn't wait to clear the car before he came across. I mean, it's not a deliberate thing. Albon obviously thought he'd cleared Kvyat, but he hadn't, and that's why the contact happened. So I think the penalty for that is fair. Again, like the Russell thing, he's kind of ruined somebody else's race by making a mistake, by thinking he's cleared a car and not, and cut across him. We've talked about Russell's retirement. We've talked about Bottas's retirement at the start as well when we're talking about Mercedes. Esteban Ocon, disappointed for him. I think he had a mechanical issue as well. That was the end of his race. He was going okay, and I think he's been all right this weekend. Seems to have been a little bit closer to Ricciardo. or at least that's how it's felt. I haven't got the numbers right in front of me, but I think he's been okay this weekend. But frustration for him in that Renault with a mechanical issue. And Lando Norris also, Renault power unit, of course, having an issue too. He was so angry over the radio, wasn't he, Dan? I think he was probably in with an outside shot of a podium today as well, which is maybe why he was so frustrated. Sort of makes it worse, doesn't it, when you're within touching distance of top three?
Yeah, and he'd had such a good start as well, getting in front of a couple of cars on the back of Ricciardo. I'm with you. I think he probably thought in the back of his mind, if they tried something a little bit different on strategy to Renault, it was potential. And also so well in the driver's standings. So that's a huge drop to drop behind Ricciardo as well. So yeah, that's a big. I'm surprised at quite how angry he was. I imagine with all those settings, I mean, no one has a clue what they mean, but trying to do that whilst you're trying to bomb it as quick as you can, you've got cars catching up with you, must be a nightmare. So disappointed for Lando, because up to that point, he was driving a really good race.
You went a bit robo halfway through that, mate.
Apologies. In short, disappointed. Good race.
Even when you go short, it still does it. Do you want to drop out the chat a minute, mate, and see if that resets it when you come back in, and I'll, yeah, see if that does it. See if Dan improves. RoboDan, we like a bit of RoboDan. So yeah, we've gone through the order there. We'll talk about Alex Albon when Dan comes back in to the stream. But yes, that was kind of frustrating for Lando Norris. Like I say, within touching distance of a podium, always going to be a little bit worse. But Alex Albon, he's back. He's back in chat. This is where we find out now. Is he a Dalek? Is he RoboDan? We'll find out in a second. Alexander Albon, pretty. I've been trying to think of words I could use nice at this point, Dan, but I'd say pretty crap race overall from Alexander Albon. Didn't cover himself in glory. And not really what he needs at the minute, with the question marks over his future lingering, and I don't really know. I mean, to start off with, qualify fifth, which, okay, he should be fourth, but that's not awful fifth place, really. So I don't think fifth place is terrible. So yeah, but then at the start, he locks up on his way to turn two, very nearly into the side of another car. That gives him a flat spot. That hampers his race. He then has to pit to get rid of that flat spotted tyre. He then goes back out and there's contact with Kvyat. He then flat spots his tyre again. Just not what he needed this weekend. And I won't defend a driver who has had a weekend or a race like that, because it was shocking. And there'll be plenty of people who will be out there getting ready with the excuses. Oh, the Red Bull's not built for him and it's all built around Max and he's under pressure. I get all of that. But you can't excuse a driver making those mistakes. They were his mistakes. He's the one that locks up, cold tyres or not. It's the same for every single driver on the grid. He locks up and flat spots his tyre. He's the one that misjudges and move on Kvyat and takes his front wing off and gets a penalty. He's the one that locks up again and gets another flat spot. This isn't Red Bull's fault this weekend. The race today was Albon. He made the mistakes. And I don't know how anybody can blame Red Bull for that. I know the car isn't built for him. It is built for Verstappen, but he just wasn't. He just had a terrible race, Dan, if you're there. I don't think he is. I'll have to rant. No, I've got no Dan. I think Dan died. Not literally. Don't worry. Let's see if I could just double check that. But yeah, we've lost Dan at the minute. I don't know if he can hear me, but I definitely can't hear him. So.
Working now?
I can hear you now.
Is it all okay?
I think so.
We
yeah.
good?
I'm nervous now. If you go Robo again, I'll shout you out mid sentence. But
yeah, just kick me out.
I will.
Just before hopefully it breaks.
Now you're Robo, mate.
Not great.
I lost you again. You went Robo. I don't know what you could do to fix it. I'm rubbish with technical stuff like that. So I could turn the bit rate down on Discord. That's about all I could do. But yeah, technical issues. Technical issues. I love technical issues. Really, really do. Hopefully that will make a difference, but we shall see. Dan's going to disappear for a bit and then come back. So yeah, just on Albon, I'll take some of your comments as well. I'm not going to go in on him. I'm not going to be one of those who just tears him apart because it's an opportunity to have a go at Albon. It's an opportunity to have a go at Bottas or somebody else on the grid. The fact of the matter is, for me, all of those errors today were his mistakes. And so it's not, I can't sit here and defend that and make the excuses that some people will. I feel for him. I think those mistakes are being made partially out of pressure, under pressure, because at the end of the day, I'm trying to think of what I'm trying to say. If you've got the media, if you've got them breathing down your neck every weekend and constantly being asked, are you going to be here next season? Do you think you're doing a good enough job? Are Red Bull going to replace you? Red Bull, are you going to replace him? You're going to go out there and you are going to make mistakes because you are under pressure and you're trying to prove yourself. That's not an excuse, but I don't remember these mistakes from Albon when he was in the Toro Rosso. Some of the mistakes he made today, I don't ever remember him doing before this weekend. So I just think with that pressure, the car's not where it needs to be. I think all that adds up to kind of the perfect storm, or mixes to make the perfect storm. And I just don't think this weekend, or certainly today, like I say, fifth yesterday wasn't terrible because he probably would have only been fourth anyway. But I just think the race today was poor. Like I say, made that mistake at turn 2, which was a lock-up. That's his error. All right, cold tyres, but it's still his error. He misjudges it with Kvyat. That's his mistake. He locks up after that and gets another flat spot. Flat spot for Star Trek fans there, but flat spot, that's his mistake as well. So yeah, I just think that was a shocker of a race from him. In fact, not a little bit reckless, very reckless at times. And it's just, the problem is now everyone's going to be asking the question, and you guys have seen you in chat. Is he off? Is he going to get dropped? What about Hulkenberg? Could he be staking a claim for that seat? Will they give Gasly a chance? Will he make it to the Portuguese Grand Prix in a Red Bull? I saw people on Twitter saying that Albon might be lucky to be in Formula 1 at all next season. Based on one afternoon on a Sunday and what's gone on this season. So you can understand that pressure will now build. So now in Portimao, he's going to maybe even have to take more risks. But I still think, and it'll not go down well, and I keep saying it, I still think in that Red Bull, he's doing a comparative job to Gasly. But I think he still shows more potential and not more willingness, but it feels like he's more likely to turn it around. And I think that might be what keeps him in the seat at least to the end of the season. But it wasn't a good day for him. We've seen some really good driving from Alex Albon this year at times, but the question mark is always going to be there when he performs like that. It just wasn't good enough. And I know there'll be people that defend him and think he's a lovely guy. Nobody could deny that, but I don't care if a driver's a lovely guy, really. It's about what they do on track, and he's not delivered today, and they're his mistakes, like I keep saying. So I feel for him for the situation he's in, but I can't feel for him today or defend his actions. Actions sounds like he's done something really rotten, doesn't it? Like he's beating somebody up, but I just can't defend his driving today. It wasn't good. Red Bull said when he retired, again, I've not had the press release. I'll just double check my emails and see if they have put any quotes in there. But Red Bull said when he retired shortly after that there was an issue they spotted with the power unit, and that's why they ended up retiring him. There is some speculation, it is only speculation, that they basically pulled the plug on his race because of the mistakes. I don't believe Red Bull would do that. I mean, let me know what you think in chat. I do not think that Red Bull would, even if he was only going to come away with a couple of points, I don't think Red Bull would pull the plug on a driver's race because they locked up some tyres and hit somebody and lost their front wing, or knocked somebody's front wing off. I don't see that being the case. So I think if they're saying there's a power unit issue, I tend to believe there was something they found, but I don't see why you do that. But at the same time, 211 points in the Constructors, well up the road from Racing Point. They don't really need their second driver to finish, do they? So, yeah, kind of, I get the pressure he's under. I get why his fans might defend him, but I don't know how anybody can after that performance today. And I hope that he can turn around in Portugal. Can turn it around in Portugal and absolutely smash it and shut us all up. I think it'd be fantastic. That'd be the perfect way to respond, wouldn't it? Get out there at Portimao and just absolutely destroy everybody around him, qualify inside the top 4, give Red Bull their options, finish 4th or 3rd. Brilliant. But yeah, and the 5-second penalty for the Kvyat thing, 100% a penalty. He's not deliberately cut across Kvyat to cause an accident, but he has cut across him too early and he's caused the incident. So that is 100% a penalty for me. But yeah, just a quick heads up, Dan won't be back on. Some technical issues his end. So thank you, Dan, mate, if you're listening, for coming along. I'll message you a bit later, but good to have you on for a bit of a waffle. So you're stuck with me now for the next 15, 20 minutes or so. So apologies for that. But yeah, I didn't hear Alex's radio message actually, Rico. If you pop a quote somewhere in the chat, I'll keep an eye out for it and see if I can spot it. But yeah, we'll see. I think he will see the season out, and that could come back and bite me very hard in a week's time. But I do think he will see the season out at Red Bull because I just don't see Gasly being promoted again. Marco would have to swallow his pride again, as he did with Kvyat getting back in that Toro Rosso at the time. So I think Albon sees a year out, but there's some drivers out there who are finding themselves without seats, who are really staking a good claim. And if Red Bull need a driver to come in next season and do a job for them, then maybe they will look at, if Perez doesn't get the seat at Haas, maybe they'll look at him, maybe Hülkenberg as well. I know they've said in the past that they want to stick within their driver pool, but who is there? Other than promoting Gasly or giving Kvyat another chance, you're not putting Tsunoda in that Red Bull next year. There's no way Vips. I know he could, under the new rules on super license points, could get a super license for next year. I can't see them putting Vips in that Red Bull, so Red Bull have backed themselves into a corner, but that's an argument for another day. I'll read some comments on Alex Albon when we do some Q&A shortly, but who was your driver of the day? Official driver of the day today was Nico Hülkenberg. I think many people agree with that, but one surname in the chat, I'll read a load out as well because I'm on my own, so I'll read some of those out in a moment, but who's your driver of the day? I think Hülkenberg is probably the way to go. I think it is. I mean, you might be tempted to say Hamilton because he's equaled the record, but based on performance, I mean, he was pretty flawless. So was Max Verstappen today. Danny Rick, superb drive to get that podium, picking up on everything that fell his way. Great drive. I think Gasly was superb today. Perez was strong. Leclerc was brilliant defensively. It's just difficult not to say Hülkenberg because he started 20th. He'd had no time in that car, 4 laps in qualifying in that car all weekend. Couldn't set it up and still managed to get 8th. Yes, there's retirements, but what do we have? 5 retirements. He still has a solid finish in 13th, even if all of them finish ahead of him. So I don't think that's terrible at all. It's not points for 13th, but I think really good drive from Nico. So I am going to be boring and go with the official one as well and say Nico Hülkenberg. But if you want me to pick somebody away from him, I'd have to go Danny Rick. I think Gio probably driver of the week, or one of the drivers of the weekend, as we've said before. So yeah, I'm going to go Hülkenberg. Rico, that was it, Rico. Thank you. Said Alex's team radio, they raced me so hard. My reaction to that was not quite the same as Martin Brundle's, but very similar. Welcome to Formula One. Well, that's what Formula One is. These are supposed to be the best drivers in the world in what they call the pinnacle of motorsport. Of course they're racing him hard. It's part of the racing. Whether he meant AlphaTauri, I don't know. But if of course Pierre Gasly's going to race Sir Alex Albon, he said then. Of course he's going to race Alex Albon hard because he's got a point to prove. So that's Formula One. They're all out there to race hard. So I think a bit like the Hamilton one where he said he's such a sore loser back in Austria. I think just in frustration, in the heat of the moment, that's where that's coming from. So I wouldn't read too much into it, but that's Formula One. If they're not racing hard, well, what's the saying? Go hard or go home. If you're not racing hard, go race in another series somewhere. Scorpio Dragon's gone with Gasly. Let's have a scroll down a bit further. Cassetti's gone with Ricciardo. Ruby's gone with Grosjean's finger. Very good, Ruby. Tuka's gone with Avocado. Sachi's gone with Grosjean. Guardian of the Blinder said Hülkenberg would be first, Grosjean second. Dan Philpott is having a conversation with somebody random, but also says was going to say something stupid like Esteban Tuero, but it's got to be Grosjean. Of course you're going to say Grosjean, because I just think you're living with Dan, quite frankly, just to troll me on Grosjean. Connor Stevenson says Hülkenberg and Ricciardo. Stephen's gone with Grosjean or Norris. Max B's gone with Grosjean. Granny Annie obviously has gone with Daniel Ricciardo. I bet you're so happy down in Australia. I bet you're so happy to see him up on that podium. Carol has gone with Ricciardo and Hülkenberg. Gasly or Hamilton or Hülkenberg for prime number. You're all hedging your bets here, a lot of you. Jack's gone with Gasly. Says Gasly was a close second, so he must have picked somebody else to first. I've missed that, mate. Sorry. Albon, Ricciardo for Mike. Sam's gone with Finger. Ricardo's gone with Vesks. I think Sachi's already said we've gone with Grosjean. Perez for Ash. I think Perez is a good shout as well. Gasly gave them hell. It says Carmen gave him hell. Close between. Yeah. I'm not going to read that one out, actually. Sorry, that was something I shouldn't have. Yeah. Let's not get into that one. Norris, Grosjean, I've already read out from Stephen. Astro's gone with Ricardo. One more super quickly. Rondell's gone with Danny Rick for driver of the day. I won't forget super chats. Don't worry, Annie. I've got them on my screen ready. We'll do those in just a second. Couple of you talking about the Alex Albon radio saying I think he meant Alpha Tauri. They do. Everybody raced him hard. Alpha Tauri are adamant that they are allowed to race Red Bulls. So I'm glad that Gasly gave him hell, and I'm glad that every driver gives every driver hell out on that track, because that's what I want to see. I want to see drivers racing. So crack on and race them just as hard would be my argument to that one. I think, yeah, they're racing you hard, but kind of the point of Formula One, isn't it? Just before I get on Super Chats and Q&A and some random waffle, please do drop a like on the stream. Will be massively appreciated. Got 1,500 watching, 287 likes, so I'm sure we can get that over 300 between us. Let's get it even higher if we can. As I often say on these streams, for some reason live streams don't do well with likes. I think you're just too busy listening to me waffle and talk crap to hit the like button, or you just don't like the video, whichever it is. But yeah, please do drop a like, and don't forget to subscribe if you're new as well. Lots of content coming up over the rest of this season. There'll be 3 or 4 videos this week, and then we'll be building up again for Portimao. Very much looking forward to that one. Really, really am. First time for Formula One at that track. It's going to be great stuff. Hopefully good for racing. Looks like an epic track, doesn't it, Portimao? So I can't wait for that one. So lots to build up. So please do subscribe and drop a like. Massively appreciated as always. That's a nice filler on me super chats load. Thank you to ALN for your contribution. Appreciate that one, mate. Suji says Ricardo Shuey in the team photo. I'll have a look for that one later, mate. Thank you for your contribution. And another one. Talk about feeling old. I started following F1 since Monaco 93. Just because of that, I was much more of a Senna fan. Thank you for your contribution, mate. I started in South Africa 92, but I still fell for Schumacher pretty quickly as my hero and my favourite driver. Yeah. Harinder Yeet says, it's silly to compare the greatest of all times for different eras. I watched tail end of Michael Schumacher's career and supported him, but Lewis is a legend and deserves it. I don't like comparing drivers from eras. I just don't think you can I don't think you can effectively or definitively sit down and say that driver's better than that driver, because the eras are completely different, the cars are completely different, the point system's different, the number of races is different. I just don't think it's possible. I think you can maybe look at drivers from each era and say that they were the best of their era, but I don't think you can do it overall in Formula One. If the cars have been the same, I mean, in many ways, thank God they're not, but if the cars have been the same from 1950 to today, then maybe you could, but there's just absolutely no way you can. But it's a debate that will always be had. Well, thank you for your contribution, mate. Granny says, did you hear me screaming from Australia? Was that you? I thought I heard something. I just assumed somebody had gone crazy outside. You are crazy, so it's fine. But yeah, I did. And I can imagine you're pretty chuffed with that one. Great result for Daniel Ricciardo today. Do you think Albon is done after today? They're racing me so hard comment is not going to play well. That's from Feely. Thank you for your contribution as well. Kind of gone over that already. I think you'll see the season out, like I say, but I wouldn't read too much of that to comment. That's just frustrating. He'll probably turn around in a week, not in a week, in a day or two, and say, "Oh, that's not what I meant," or "That was just heat of the moment." So, yeah, get out there and race. That's what we want to see. And I will always say, when I criticise or critique a driver for their performances, like Alex Albon, like I have for Bottas in the past, don't ever think that's hate, because it's not. Because I would love for nothing more than those drivers to turn around and prove people like me who are criticising their performances wrong. I want Albon now to go to Portugal and absolutely smash it all weekend. That's what I want. That's who I am. I just like people doing that. Andrew Robinson, thank you for yours. Hulk is driver of the day, no doubt. Props for showing up. That was from yesterday, but you get another shout out as well. Why not? Sean says, Lewis, about tyre temp being the only one with DAS. Thank you for your contribution. That was a while ago, actually, mate. So thank you for that. I think it came in with at the start during the countdown. I'm sure I saw it. So yeah, thank you for all your contributions today. One just coming as well from Chris Sutcliffe says, do you think there's a driver that isn't already spoken for that could go toe-to-toe with Verstappen in the difficult-to-drive Red Bull? Who? It's a good question. Thank you for that. On the current grid, I think you could say that Danny Rick could hop in that car and maybe take the fight to him, but I think Daniel Ricciardo would also, he would probably do better than Albon and Gasly did, but at the same time, if that team is 100% built around Verstappen, he's going to come across a lot of the same issues, and this is the point, isn't it? Whoever you put in that second car, yes, they might do a better job than Albon, for example, but that car is geared around one man. That whole team is built around one man, so whoever's in that second car is always going to come across some of those problems, so what Red Bull need is a driver who can back up Verstappen. So if Verstappen qualifies second, then you need your second driver to be third or fourth. If Verstappen's on pole, you need them second or third. They've got to be there to sort of back him up. There's nobody is going into that team to beat Max Verstappen because that's not what Red Bull wants. So I would say it doesn't matter who you put in that car. If that team continues to be built around Max Verstappen, which is fine, by the way, for the same reason it is for Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes. You just would, wouldn't you? They are two of the most talented, probably the two most talented drivers on the grid right now, who are delivering performances for their team and delivering results. So you would build a team around them. But as long as they're doing that, it doesn't matter who you put in that second car. They're always going to struggle to a point. But I'd quite like to see Carlos Sainz in there. I still think he's kind of the one that got away, in a sense, for Red Bull. Because I'm not saying he'd get in there and beat Verstappen, but I think he'd be a very good second driver to Max Verstappen and would pick up the points and would qualify well. So, yeah, maybe Hulkenberg will get a nod. Some talk of that from commentary today, maybe, but it's going to be tough. Thank you as well to Punky Pink. It says Danny Rick should make Cyril get a Christian Horner tattoo. Oh, that would be superb. That would be superb. Thank you for all your super chats today. I'll keep an eye out in case any more come in. Always good to get your views. We'll do some from chat in just a moment as well. But we talked about Lewis Hamilton at the start of this stream. Just got to give it a mention again, just in case you missed it. 91 race wins today. I mean, that is just... what do you say? A very emotional moment, as well as Mick Schumacher handed, I think it was a 2012 race helmet, I think. It was got Mercedes badge on. It's a 2012 race helmet given by Mick Schumacher to Lewis Hamilton after that race. Very emotional moment. Obviously, I'm a massive Schumacher fan, so that was it's a conflicted day for me. It's great to see Lewis Hamilton finally get to that 91, but it's still kind of the end of an era. But as Michael Schumacher said himself, as I butchered at the start, records. He always thought records were there to be beaten. I think my biggest. I don't want to make this not about Hamilton because he deserves all the recognition he's getting for that 91 wins. He's going to break the record. He's going to at least equal the World Championships as well. Massive, massive congratulations to him for that. But I think my biggest disappointment today is not that the record was equaled, but the fact that Michael wasn't there to hand the helmet over himself. I just hope that... Obviously, we don't have updates on him, and I completely respect the family's decision. I completely understand why they want to keep that private. That is completely their business. Of course, keep fighting, Michael. Always going to say that. But I hope somewhere he sat watching this and taking in the fact that we're witnessing history and that somebody has equaled a record that nobody ever believed would be equaled. So it's quite emotional in that respect. I'd love to have seen Michael there today to hand that over, kind of pass the baton almost of that record. But yeah, that's the overriding feeling for me. As things calm down and I sort of look through the stats and look back at Hamilton's career, certainly over the winter, I'll be doing some content on Lewis Hamilton then. I might do something before the end of the season as well. But I just... That's my overriding feeling. I just wish Schumacher was there. Because like I say, again, third time in the stream, he himself said records are there to be broken. And I think it was Jonty that said to me in a tweet or in a message, it might be a message, just said he would have been cheering the loudest. And that is who Michael Schumacher was, regardless of what the BBC tried to tell me as a kid. that he was a horrible person. He wasn't a horrible person. He did some very dodgy stuff on the racetrack. There's no denying that. But he's an absolute legend, my hero as well. So keep fighting, Michael, and congratulations, Lewis Hamilton. But still an emotional moment to see Mick Schumacher there. And of course, big focus on this weekend on Mick. So that'll be quite a moment if he gets that drive. So yeah, congratulations, Lewis. And again, keep fighting, Michael. But good to see him get something to remember the weekend by. It was quite weird as well to see Lewis Hamilton. Not weird, unusual to see Lewis Hamilton, like Dan said, a little bit emotional at the end, a little bit lost for words. Michael Schumacher was a very emotional driver. I remember him equaling, I think it was Senna's record. Burst into tears. Mika Hakkinen was there, arm on his shoulder. I think Ralf Schumacher was on the podium with him that day as well, which was weird. His brother didn't comfort him at the time. Mika Hakkinen did. That's how good Mika Hakkinen was. So I think to see Lewis Hamilton quite emotional was quite unusual as well, but very happy for him, and obviously, again, for the fourth time, keep fighting, Michael. But let's take some of your questions questions in comments is what I was going to say, and then we'll wrap it up for today. Did Mick say, me and my dad think you should have it, or was I hearing things? Yeah, me too. I wish Schumacher had been there. That's from Raoul. I don't remember hearing that, but I have to admit, in the post-race stuff, I'm generally setting the stream up, so I've kind of got it on in the background, so I don't always catch things. So I'll have a look out for that one. It'd be nice if he did. But it's just quite a moment. What Albert said on the radio is a disgrace. Red Bull should dump him right here and now. After 1 year, you should be able to drive any car, says Brian. Says Brain Dump. Brian. All right, Brian. There you go. I'll let other people come in on that one. I've said what I wanted to say on Alex Albon today. Who will replace Kvyat? That's from... It's scrolling too quick. It was Chin something, so apologies. Chin BR or something like that. But yeah, thank you for your comment. Try to do 4 things at once now. I've got nobody to come in and talk so I can keep up with stuff. So yes, thank you for your question. Who's going to replace Kvyat? I still think Tsunoda. You all think I'm crazy, but I'm not. I think he is still, even though Honda are leaving, first of all, Red Bull are still powered by Honda next year, so absolutely still a possibility. Secondly, he is also a Red Bull junior as well as a Honda junior, and Red Bull are not going to invest time, effort and money into a driver who is doing a good job in Formula 2, by the way, this year. He's got 2 wins, could have been 3 without some communication issues back in, I think it was Austria. So he's done a great job in Formula 2. They're not going to invest all that time in a driver that's clearly quick and then just go, nope, Honda are leaving, we're not interested, Yuki, go and find a drive somewhere else. So I still think Tsunoda's in with a shot. Other than that, like I said a minute ago, Yuri Vips with the changes to the super license rules, which I'll go over at some point, or if I don't, I'm sure Chamber will, but the changes to the super license point system that are coming in, giving an extra year and allowing people to make their case now, Yuri Vips could qualify for a super license as well, so he could be a possibility. I know they're backing him very heavily, and he's a quick young lad as well. I don't think he's quite ready for Formula 1. I think if you're looking at between Tsunoda and Vips right now, if you're picking a driver, you'd probably go with Tsunoda, but I think Vips is definitely a driver for the future, so yeah. That's I think Tsunoda for next year. But at the same time, I would not be surprised if Kvyat stays, because when things go his way, he does all right in that second car. I think Gasly's really doing a good job, a fantastic job this season, but Kvyat's all right as well. He's doing okay, so we'll see. And good point from Annette there. I agree, Tsunoda, plus Red Bull want to keep Honda sweet. Did I say this on stream yesterday? I either said it on stream or I said it to somebody, but just for a second, think about this. Red Bull possibly want to buy the IP, the intellectual property of the Honda power unit, so they might be able to negotiate a deal with Honda where they still put Yuki Tsunoda in next year and maybe they get X amount off that IP. There you go. There's all sorts of happens in Formula 1, but then at the same time, Helmut Marko today has been seen talking to the Renault CEO, I believe somebody at Mercedes, and also Mattia Binotto as well. So who knows what's going on with Red Bull. Should we let teams run 3 drivers? That's from Astro. No, I don't like that idea, because then if you do that, people that say the sport is boring are going to double down on that, because then your top 3 is, your top 6 is 3 Mercedes and 3 Red Bulls. And that's it. And if you've got a team like Ferrari on form as well, assuming nothing goes on, your top 9 is instantly locked out by the top 3 teams. So I don't like that at all. I've never liked that idea. But I mean, if F1 don't get their act together with power units, that might be the way it ends up having to go. So We'll see. Scott Dixon should be the second Red Bull driver. That's from Thurston. I know a lot of you guys in comments actually are big fans of Scott Dixon, so I can't honestly say too much on him. Preview for Portugal. That's from Martin. There will be a week on Thursday. I'll do that a couple of days before we get to the actual Grand Prix, usually the day before practice. Ben Roberts, will Gio stay in Formula One? I don't think so. Like I said when Dan was on, I think the Alpha seats are decided now. I think it will be Schumacher and Raikkonen. And I don't think teams like Haas are going to be looking at Giovinazzi over the drivers they've got, or someone like a Perez, for example. So I think he's done. But I hope he finds. I'm sure he'll race somewhere. He might end up in Formula E. Who knows? So yeah, I think Gio will be moving on after this season. But again, as I said earlier, I think he's done better than he has done better than I was expecting, and hopefully he will find a seat somewhere. Do you think Seb will be in the top 5 of the standings next year? From Gaming with Steve. That's an excellent question, Gaming with Steve. No. It's all down to Ferrari, isn't it? Your top 2 in whatever order will be Mercedes and Red Bull, probably that order. If Ferrari continue to improve as they have been doing, I mean, continue to improve is it's not huge improvements, but I think they're working on some other stuff as well. So maybe they can improve next year, but maybe. I've said no. I'm backpedaling already. I'm just thinking now, Racing Point at 3rd in the standings, Aston Martin next year, they're still going to have a 2019 Mercedes, aren't they? So they're still going to be quick. If Seb can get a little bit of, get an arm around him from Racing Point or Aston Martin, as they will be, maybe. But I think top 6, but I think top 5, I think Renault are really improving. You've got Alonso back next year as well. McLaren are looking very good. Ricciardo's going there. So it'll be tough. Never say never. But as of right now, I'd say no. But I am very much looking forward to the fight in general in that midfield next year. It's going to be epic. One more that I just spotted there, and it's going to disappear. I think it was on the Nikita Mazepin rumours. I hope they're not true. I'm sure he's a lovely guy. I don't know. I think he's actually having a very good season in Formula 2 for Mazepin. He's surprised me this year. He's been one of the surprise packages, but I don't think he's at the level that we want our drivers to be at for Formula 1. However, I'm not going to name names. There are drivers on the grid right now who are there. Yeah. And I think that the reason Mazepin gets in that Haas seat is going to be because of a check. But hey, Lance Stroll, prime example. I still think he would have been knocking on the doors of Formula 1 even without his dad's money, because he did very well in his junior series, but he got a lot of ridicule because of these paychecks that come from his dad and his dad buying him a team, but he's had a very good season. So it may be the money that gets Mazepin in, but he might get in F1 and deliver and shut me up. So I hope not. I'd much rather see Perez and Eilot in there. Eilot well above Mazepin, in my opinion, in terms of form this season and in terms of raw speed. So I think if you're promoting from F2, you'd maybe go Perez and Eilot. But I've got a feeling for some reason, it was yesterday I was thinking about it, yesterday afternoon, I've just got a feeling Magnussen might stay. And I don't know why. So Perez and Magnussen maybe. That's not a bad lineup for Haas. Absolutely not. A couple more questions before I wrap things up. We're going just over an hour and a half. It is well over an hour. It definitely is. Do you think Red Bull will leave Formula 1? No. That's what the talk will be now until a deal's done, but I think they'll stay for 22. I think I said it on Wednesday, or we said it on Wednesday. Whatever happens in negotiating this IP from Honda, if that all falls through, they know in the regulations they've got a fallback position in Renault, and Renault will have to supply them as long as that request comes in, and I think it's before the 1st of June. So they'll still be in Formula 1. I think they'd rather get the plans, if you like, for the Honda engine from Honda than go back to Renault. That's maybe their second choice right now, but I think they'll stay. One more. Let's see if we can get a... Martin wants to know where I get the pictures from. Pictures are from, I'll say this, I always answer it in comments as well. Pictures are sourced either from gptoday.net or provided by gptoday.net, or they are from Teams content pools, so the media areas on the Teams things which we're allowed to use for editorial use, FOM. Same with their rights-free footage. It's fine for editorial use, you swines. release my video. God damn it. To be fair, the video didn't do very well, so it's fine if they don't, but I'd much rather they did. So one more, hopefully race related. In fact, it's not race related actually, but it is kind of in a way. That's from Ben, who says, which track for the German Grand Prix? This one. But I think I'm biased there because I love the Nurburgring. I love the layout. I love just the track in general. I think we've always had some good racing there. I think today's race was good. I don't think it was epic or anything like that, but I think it was a good race. We had some good action, some unpredictability as well in behind those top two of Hamilton and Verstappen, so it was all right. So I'd rather keep the Nürburgring. However, I'd also be very happy to have Hockenheim on the calendar. So if maybe the financial side of things, because I might be wrong. If you are from Germany or if you know, let me know. But I'm pretty sure that Germany, the German government don't, a bit like the British government don't support Silverstone, I don't think the German government support the German Grand Prix. I might be wrong. So if it is a financial issue that's preventing these tracks from hosting the race, I'm perfectly fine if Hockenheim one year, Nürburgring the next, Hockenheim the following year, etc., like we had. I think it was 2013 was Nürburgring, 2012 was Hockenheim, and it went back like that. So I'd be happy with that. But I do feel with Mercedes dominance, Sebastian Vettel on the grid going to Aston Martin, he's going to be powered by a German power unit, Mick Schumacher probably coming in next year. Kind of feel like we need a German Grand Prix on the calendar. So I'm going to go with, I'd like Nürburgring, but I'm happy if they share it. That's how it is. So Nürburgring, but let's just have one in Germany. Let's absolutely do it. Apparently they aren't funded. There you go. Thank you to DJ Red Raven for that one. And also Dan Izzle said, you're right as well. So yes, appreciate that one. We'll wrap it up there, though, because otherwise I'll just answer your questions all day. Let me know, actually, super quickly in chat, because obviously you guys are the ones that come along to these live streams. So it'd be good to know, would you be interested in once a week or once a fortnight going live midweek and me just answering questions for an hour? And it would be an hour, like we did on Wednesday, just 1 hour. Let me know what you think of that one, because that's something I'm considering. I think we need more interaction. You need more of my waffle. I need you to keep me sane, which is a terrifying thought, and it'd be good to answer questions when I can as well. I think that's an overwhelming yes. I wait for someone to go, no, I hate you, but I'll talk to Annette later, that's fine. But we are going to wrap it up there. Thank you very much for coming on. Apologies again for the technical issues when we lost Dan about 20 minutes ago, but these things happen. I think that's a definite yes from the chat. Appreciate that one. Now, I will be back. When will I be back? Never. I quit. No, I will be back possibly Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. It's going to be Tuesday or Wednesday, and then there'll be, sort of like, as I said earlier, 3 or 4 videos between now and Sunday. And then, of course, next week we're building up to the Portuguese Grand Prix at Portimao. Oh, yes. Again, I can't wait for that one. It's going to be great. So I'll be back Tuesday or Wednesday with some content. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but I'm sure I'll find it with something. Probably going to get some news soon as well on what Alfa Romeo are going to be doing, and maybe Haas as well. I think Sergio Perez has been talking over the weekend, over the next couple of weeks, hopefully having a decision there. So there'll be news, I'm sure. But yeah, back Tuesday or Wednesday. And that's pretty much it. Don't forget, of course, you can follow me over on social media. All of the links you need for that are in the description down below. But thank you for coming along. Good to have you with me in some race reaction. I've been Sean, as always. Yeah, I'm always Sean. That never changes. This has been the F1 word. And until next time, I'll just get out of here. This is terrible. Goodbye.